Hello, world. This is Jennifer, and I decided that I wanted to start talking about hypoxic brain injury. And there are tons of videos about traumatic brain injury, which is called a TBI. It usually comes from a concussion. From car wrecks or sports injury or, just a fall or anything like that. But a hypoxic brain injury, it can have a lot of the same symptoms, and it's, just as serious, but it comes from an event that caused lack of oxygen to the brain. So there's not a lot of information available about hypoxic brain injury. You can look it up. It's hypoxic or anoxic brain injury, and you'll see there's just not a lot of information for you, because the types of events that cause this type of injury are very serious, and a lot of the people do not make it to the other side. So mine was a massive pulmonary embolism, and it happened at home while I was asleep. And I know that I went for some amount of time without oxygen, without any oxygen at all, but nobody knows the exact length of time. And it took us, I'm 4 years out from the pulmonary embolism, and it took us a while to really put together the pieces that I had really had such a significant lack of oxygen, or, to where it would affect my brain. In the early days, the focus was just get the breathing and heart regulated again. Nobody was looking at the brain stuff, even though that was there from the very beginning. It's just nobody knew to look, since it happened at home, and nobody saw, what, nobody saw me. Nobody, there's just, I'll have to tell that story another time, but there's a lot of unknown in mine, but because of my brain injury and all the things that I deal with now because of it, it is very clear that something very significant happened, and it had a lasting effect on me. Because if you look at pulmonary embolism, you'll find it's serious. It's like you either die or you don't. It's one of those, it's right up there with, the heart attacks and stroke. And so most of the survivors of pulmonary embolism, they only had very small clots, and they didn't go like I did with a complete lack of oxygen. They went with shortness of breath, but I had complete blockages, and like I said, I completely stopped breathing, and most people don't. That's not. Most people, they'll get, they'll pass out, and I definitely felt like that in the days following, but they'll pass out, and somebody will see them, and then, they'll get help instantly. So they don't ever get to the point that I was. And so couple of facts about pulmonary embolism, which is blood clots that hit your lungs, usually coming from the legs. But with me, we don't know what happened. No idea. It's just called idiopathic, which just means I have no idea. So that's yeah. Not very comforting. Oh gosh, I've lost my train of thought. This is not good. Hold on. Okay, so we're talking about pulmonary embolism, and the things to know about it is that 1 out of every 3 that has a pulmonary embolism will die from it. 1 out of every 4 will die instantly. That will be their first symptom, is death. So, yeah, it is that serious, and I survived it. Made it to the other side. But not without, some significant damage done in the process. So, I'm doing this first video from my bed. The reason why I'm doing it from my bed is because this is where I spend a lot of time. Brain injury is extremely exhausting. And for the hypoxic brain injuries, typically one of the first areas that starts to get damaged, an area that is extremely sensitive to the lack of oxygen is the hypothalamus and the basal ganglia area, in which that's like really deep in the brain because it's supposed to be protected very well. That's an area that it's really important, and it controls a lot of things, and you mess it up and it just can cause a lot of issues for you. And so, like I said, it's way deep in the brain, like right in the center, and it's intended to be very well protected, although when you're thinking about blood flow, that's like one of the first areas that the blood flow from the brain gets is in that area. And so that's the first area that also experiences the lack of oxygen. So there's some information there. Okay, so I will tell you right now, before I go any further, one big symptom for me from my brain injury is that I have trouble finding words, just simple words. And I know like everybody does this. I did it before, for sure. But this is a lot different than that. It's just different. And I will lose my train of thought. And so, like, it's very important for people to let me finish, what I'm saying. Because if you interrupt me and it interrupts that, process, I can't get it back. It's gone. And, that's something that I can tell you before, because everybody loses their train of thought. Yes, I know. because I did before too, but not like this. Before the brain injury, I would lose, the what I was trying to say, or whatever. No. Um, I would lose it, but I could always kind of like feel like I could almost like it's right here. It's just like right here. If I just think real hard and focus on this area, I can get it. The type that I have now, I do not feel like, it's gone. There's no connection there. It's like the brain just gave up. It just says no, road is closed. So, and that is a very good example of really what is happening, with the brain injury is that the neurons and the transmitters, whatever, all of those things in there, the electrical things, they get damaged and kind of just don't know where to go anymore. Like the control center short circuited, and it just it works. It just has hiccups, kind of. So, yeah, I need to say that is that I do lose words, and I can lose my train of thought, and I also I process slowly. So I will talk slowly, like and this is where people want to interrupt me. Because they're just like, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point. But I need time for my brain to really sink in. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say, and send it to the mouth and come out. And so, yeah, I go much slower. It takes me longer to tell stories. And sometimes I feel like it makes me look uneducated. It makes me look just kind of dumb. Like I don't know what I'm talking about, and I do. And I'm not dumb. But I do deal with the brain injury. It affects that, and that is one of the ways that you will definitely see it, come out in me is just that slowness of, the processing. So my brain just has to work extra hard, to process stuff. And I get fatigue, like mental fatigue and physical fatigue, and just I'm exhausted all the time. And so another thing that happened, and it's all part of that little area, is that the part of the brain that controls the wake-sleep cycle was damaged, and so my brain doesn't know what it's doing on this whole sleeping thing. I did do a sleep study, and basically, I just don't get to that level of sleep where it actually restores your energy, and I don't get there. That whole night they said that I had very fragmented sleep, and that it was like less than 4 hours total for the whole night. So I stay tired. But it actually is a injury-induced narcolepsy. And I know people have heard of narcolepsy, and they think people just like standing here talking and then just fall asleep. And there are two different types of narcolepsy. And so, like, if you were born with the whatever causes it, you're very likely to have what is called cataplexy, and at this point I don't think I have it. It doesn't always show as dramatically as what they show on TV. It could just be like a pause, or just I don't know. I don't like lose all muscle control. I mean, that's cataplexy, and that's where you see like the people just falling down. And it's usually because of a strong emotion hit. And so the brain's trying to do a couple different things, and it just gives out. I don't think I have that yet. I have seen that it could develop with time, that's not always, one of the first symptom of narcolepsy is just excessive daytime sleepiness. And a lot of times that gets attributed to a lot of different things, because a lot of things can cause that. I mean, I have several things that could be, attributed. They're all working against it. I would just say that, to the daytime sleepiness. But with the narcolepsy, the big thing is you don't get quality sleep. So people think of people with narcolepsy as they just sleep all the time. They'll fall asleep everywhere. And that and like an excessive amount of sleep, when actually they're not really getting sleep. They're not getting good sleep. Even if they rest all day long, they're not getting the restorative sleep. And that is where, just imagine living off of just a couple hours sleep every day. The exhaustion that just builds and builds and builds, and it never, you never catch up. You never. So just, if you can imagine just, a day that you stayed up, the longest you've ever stayed up, and how tired you felt after that, that is every day with narcolepsy. Every day. It is a struggle, to do anything. My energy is just depleted before I even get started. And so you will have those moments where you will just fall asleep. But for me, and I would probably say this applies to most, from what I've seen, read, whatever. It seems like it probably does. I know I'm tired. I know. Like, I'm like this close to falling asleep. I know that. Um, but I can control it just a little bit. Like, I do know enough that if I'm like that sleepy where I'm about to just like, I know to sit down and I know to lay down. But I have had like it happens a lot when you get still. Like anything that you do where you get still. So if you're watching TV, yeah. If you're reading, it happens a lot when I'm reading. Working, if you work on a computer, driving. Um, just, I mean, like I said, when you get still, that's when it starts to set in. That's when your body says, "Oh, we're laying down." um, and so I have been at that, I was at the edge, and I already knew that I was laying down. And my kid came in to ask me questions, and I like fell asleep mid sentence. Yeah, that's because they caught me at that edge. You catch me at that edge, I'll do my best, but I've sent sleep text, and that is so embarrassing. That is so embarrassing. Because I mean, you just think of the drunk text, okay? Just think of that. Oh. There's always this point, when you're falling asleep as a narcoleptic, you go into the dream state really quick, really easy. And so, you can be kind of in between. And I do that. I won't really know if I'm dreaming or if it's real. And so sometimes that gets kind of tied together, and I might be texting, and it just kind of fuses together, and sometimes crazy stuff gets sent. It's really embarrassing. Yeah, it's really embarrassing. Other things that I deal with is myoclonic jerks, in which when I explain this, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I do that." Okay, see, a lot of the things that I tell you about, yes, everybody does it. Not to the level that, I'm talking about, though. I mean, so these are all functions of the brain. It's the brain trying to do what it's supposed to do, but it's not quite. It's not quite. So myoclonic jerks, usually people notice them when they're about to fall asleep, and they have that, like, they feel like they're falling, and they, just kind of jump. That is a myoclonic jerk. That is called uh, sleep start or something like that. I don't know. Mine is similar, but it is not the same. Mine is similar, but not the same. Mine, I know, like, you know, I if I get to this certain state of relaxation, what it feels like to me is that somebody has a zapper and they are just taking it wherever they want to, all over my body. I mean, all over, just different places. And so wherever they zap me, that part will jump. And it happens like, gosh, when I was first diagnosed, it was probably um, 30 to 50 times a minute. And when you're getting zapped and you don't know where it's going to hit next, it causes anxiety. Kind of makes it hard for you to sleep. And I mean, I got to the point where I would get anxiety at just the thought of even laying down to go to sleep because I knew it was going to happen. That's one of the things that definitely started like the first night, just right away was the myoclonic jerks. I knew it was weird. I didn't know what it was. Now I know. And so I take Keppra to control that. And it does an okay job. I'm not having as many, but I do still have them. And if I'm really tired, I will have a lot. If I've had a really stressful day, I will have significant ones. And then another thing that I deal with is tremors. And so if you can think of Parkinson's, that is kind of what it's like. I take medicine, which is pretty much the same medicine that someone with Parkinson's would take. And it helps. But there are still times, and I mean, this is all day, every day. It's not something that goes away. It's not always visible to other people, but it's always something that I can feel. And there's just times that it gets worse, and that's when it becomes visible to other people. And there's just different triggers for it, and even the medicine can't really take that away. But it has helped a whole lot, from where I started. And when I have tremors, it's my whole body. And like my hands are the most noticeable, but I'll also get it like in my chin, in my voice. And then when I get it really, really bad, I can't stand. Like I can't, my legs just are too wobbly to hold me up. So I have to sit down. But so that is just like starting on things that I deal with my brain injury. I just want to bring awareness to it, because if you look at me when I'm feeling kind of okay, you can't tell there's anything different about me than anybody else. And I do I am able to do a lot. I am blessed in that, I can walk, and most of the time. And, I can do things, but I'm limited to how much and how long. And, getting back to the whole sleep thing, the exhaustion that I deal with every day from, the narcolepsy to just the brain fatigue, physical fatigue, all of that combined, it is debilitating. I do spend a lot of time in my bed. My body just gives out, and I have to have at least 2 naps a day. And I wake up sort of late. And I go to bed at 10. I mean, that's not, but yeah, my life is definitely affected by the fatigue and the extreme exhaustion and sleepiness. When people hear that I've taken a nap or I'm taking a nap or whatever, I get told a lot, "Oh, it must be nice." Yeah. You know what else is nice? Not having a brain injury. Yeah. Being able to stay up and do what you want to do. Not having to lay down. Not knowing that if I'm going to have a really busy day tomorrow, I better just cancel the rest of the week because I will not have anything else to give. So yeah, the naps are nice. I do make jokes myself about it because what else are you gonna do? What else are you gonna do? But mine are a necessity. Mine are not optional. Mine are not a luxury. Mine is a symptom to a huge thing that happened to me. It's one of those things that reminds me every day something very, very serious happened to you.